Talk about what was your biggest challenge when starting your business?
A lot of it is it's going to be that service, and it truly is the service.
ROI on that. I can't express how big the ROI on that is. Didn't collect the paycheck for 10 years, people. For 10 years, that guy worked for free. You need to be willing to do the same if you want to be successful in business. Welcome, my beautiful people. Today, I got a special guest, but before I introduce him, let me tell you what the topic is today, right? We're going to be talking about the importance of providing an outstanding guest experience. Now, my guest today is not in the short-term rental business, but he is in the what I refer to the hospitality business because he is an outdoor expert. He does a lot of adventure tours and a lot. And I'll let him explain his business in a second. But anyone that is either in the short-term rental business, in the boating business, we are in the hospitality business. So we need to provide that outstanding either customer service or guest experience. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. But without further ado, let me introduce you to someone that I've known for a while. I'll throw that out there. He's not someone foreign to me. In fact, when I was running my CrossFit gym, and I was actually hands-on, because today I'm not, as you guys know, I'm not hands-on anymore. I have other people running it. But when I was hands-on, Ronan was one of my coaches. And we'd had a lot of fun. He was instrumental to the success of our CrossFit gym at the time. So without further ado, let me bring him on. Ronan, can you do me a big favor and introduce yourself? Give us a little bit of your background and how you got started with Invictus Outdoors.
Thanks so much, Fernando. My name is Ronan, the founder and owner of Invictus Outdoors. My background, I grew up in South Florida. I've always been passionate about the outdoors. Anyone who's known me or knows me to any degree really knows that if I'm not at home relaxing with my dogs, the only other place I'd rather be is out on the water bass fishing. My professional background, I've literally always been involved with startups and very successful startups. The only exception to that is I did spend a few years with Microsoft. But while I was with Microsoft, actually, I always had this plan to build a company, or at least a version, the idea or in the inception of the idea for the company I have now, Invictus Outdoors, started really while I was with Microsoft. And it was to create a company that provided a high level of customer service in the outdoors industry, because I saw a gap in that in the industry and how customers were treated, the communication, the level of professionalism, marketing, etc., being brought to customers and that industry. And to be quite honest, it's not cheap. And the level of professionalism just was lacking. And so there were a few other startups that got in the way of me actually doing that. And then finally it got to the point of, well, you know what am I waiting on? And I finally made the jump and launched Invictus Outdoors. And it's a more refined version of what I originally intended. And we are your outdoors concierge. And we actually now, it's not just the clients or customers that we bring that concierge level of service to, but also our guides. So we deliver the highest level of service to the guides, but also our clients and customers as well. And so it's that level of communication, professionalism that just was lacking then, and still for the most part in this industry is still lacking today across the board in most cases.
Awesome. I can attest to what Ronan just said. Ever since I know him, he has been an outdoor guy. I mean, he's competed in triathlons. I actually participated with him in some relay races. It's the Ragnar relay. Those that are not familiar, is usually like a 100-mile race in a team.
158 miles, I think.
Yeah, 158 miles, and Ronan was on our team, and we've done a lot of fun stuff on the outdoors. But I'm excited for you, Ronan. I'm glad you started this. It's definitely suits you. So
So along with being, um, I focus primarily myself as a freshwater fishing guide, but we represent a fleet of fishing and hunting guides throughout the state of Florida. Inshore, offshore, saltwater guides, freshwater fishing guides, as well as hunting guides throughout the state of Florida.
awesome, and let's talk a little bit about your name itself. How
Hmm.
did that come about?
So the name, aside from much more significant than the meaning of the word, Invictus is invincible or unconquerable. Um, uh, it's the title of my favorite poem. It's a poem written by William Ernest Henley, and just the poem itself. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It holds a lot of significance to me, and um, a lot of people, if you don't know the poem, just from the title, you probably know the last line of the poem. I am master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And but the poem really talks about having gone through and faced challenges and everything that can possibly be thrown at you in your life and overcoming it, unwilling to give up, unwilling to um, be defeated, to surrender. So it's just keeping on going, just never surrendering, never giving up, and keeping ownership of your life, your soul, your fate, and being invincible, essentially.
I freaking love that. That is amazing. And it fits not only Ronan, but it fits us as well.
Yes.
Those guys, those of you that that are subscribing to the channel and follow me religiously, I talk about that constantly. So that's pretty cool. So you already talked a little bit about um, the vast, diverse services that you offer. But can you share with my audience a one or two memorable experience that has stuck with you uh, since you started the company?
What the one that really sticks out to me, and it kind of embodies, um, and it just really happened organically, and that really speaks to who we are and what we are about. We had a client call up, and she wanted to book a surprise Osceola turkey hunt. And Osceola turkeys are really only found, um, if you're not familiar with hunting, there are several species of turkey that exist in the United States or in North America. And people want to complete their slam, and it's harvesting all the species of turkey in North America. And one of the hardest ones to get is the Osceola turkey, which is essentially only in Florida. And it's so she wanted to book for her fiance's engineering degree graduation, which was happening in a couple months, a surprise trip for her and her fiance to hunt Osceola turkeys, which was going to be about a year later. So in the industry, a lot of guides or outfitters, as I mentioned earlier, you call and you oftentimes get an answering machine, or answering machine is full, or voicemail is full, or you email, and you're lucky if you get a response back in, I don't mean 2 hours or 2 days. You're lucky if you get a response back in 2 weeks. Um, we don't take 2 hours to get back to you. We get back to you. If not, we answer the phone literally when you call. We get back to you like immediately, like in 2 minutes. We have people there who know the industry. If I'm not answering the phone or your message, we have a business messaging service that you can literally text message us. So we're literally there answering immediately. But so that's one thing. So it was immediate. Someone answered her right away. Not some phone service in some third world country. Literally people here who know the industry. You're talking to a live person. And then she had lots of questions, and it was weeks of her calling multiple times a day, asking lots of questions. Where will it be? Should we book lodging through you? If we don't book lodging, where should we stay? What airport should we come in? We're planning to bring our own guns, but if we don't bring guns, can we rent guns with you? What size ammunition should we bring? That sort of thing. All relevant questions, but then also questions she felt might be silly, but they weren't silly. But then she just felt like she's asking too many questions. And that's another thing in the industry. When you're asking too many questions, a lot of outfitters, this person's not real. They're asking too many questions. They're not really going to book. They're wasting my time. They just stop answering your messages. That's not us.
Let me stop you there real quick, because this is a very important lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, providing that guest experience, and I've said this before on other interviews, plus I've said this before in other videos that I've done, and that is the following, right? That guest experience starts even before they get to you, right? Like
Exactly.
Ronan, like Ronan just mentioned, the ability or the fact that Ronan and his company answers the phone, right, is win number one. The fact that they answer,
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
the fact that he answers quickly, win number two. I've always said this, in the short term rental industry, you're going to get guests that are going to send out multiple inquiries. And statistics tells us that the first company that replies and starts answering questions will most likely close that deal. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad you guys are doing that, because it shows your professionalism. And in this, and in your industry, and my industry, and many other industry, that's the issue with a lot of individuals. They're not professionals. And when
And
you
there
don't
has to be
answer a phone or call back or follow up on a phone call, it shows your lack of professionalism. So go ahead and continue, but I'm glad you brought that up.
and there has to be crossover to this because she kept apologizing because and I'm so sorry. And I just one more question. And I kept saying, stop apologizing. That's what we're here for. Stop apologizing. And that's a very valid question. You shouldn't apologize for that. That's what we're here for. And like you said, that's a professionalism that should be in the industry. That is the service I'm providing. And this is also a differentiator in the industry that we provide is this guide that I was hoping he could attend, but his phone number is literally changed to ours. He doesn't get any more customer calls. They come directly to us because he it might be 2 weeks before he can check his voicemail, and those are literally bookings he won't get because they've moved on to someone else. And like you were saying, they send out multiple inquiries. And 2 weeks, she had this graduation. She needs to have this booked. And she had 2 weeks of questions. And if someone hasn't gotten back to her in 2 weeks, she can't wait for that long. So she asked weeks of questions, sometimes multiple questions a day, and she felt so bad, and she genuinely felt bad. And I understood because of her previous experience booking other hunts in other states, etc. And then she finally books. And now she's booked and she feels, and these are thousands upon thousands of dollars per hunt, and she booked two of them. So,
Nice, nice.
I mean, it's over $7,000 this one booking. So she then says, Ronan, I am so sorry. I have a couple more questions. I'm like, stop. It's okay. What is it? And so we already have her money, but you can't stop providing that concierge service. So
100%.
so she goes, is there any way? And she explains the graduation at this point is now roughly a month away or so. And she says, can you make, and the hunt's roughly a year away. Can you print like a certificate or something that I can give him? Because it's a surprise. She's like, I have nothing to give him. And she's like, you know what? Never mind. You've been so good. You've gone above and beyond. You are the best outfitter I've ever booked with. I am so sorry to even ask. I said, stop it. You'll have something to review by the end of the day. Just give me an address to mail it. And she goes, what? And I said, you'll have something to review. You tell me you approve it, and it'll be in the mail by the end of the day. So she approved it, end of the day. And it was gorgeous, heavy cardstock certificate with her fiance's name on it, the date of their hunt, the location, certificate recognizing his graduation for his Osceola turkey hunt. But what she didn't know was I made these custom tumblers that I don't sell. I don't give away our company logo on it. It had her name. I put the date of their hunt, her name, her fiance's name, their hunt, and I included it in the package, one for her and one for her fiance. She had no idea this was coming with the certificate. And so she opened the certificate package, and these tumblers were also included. I got a call the day she opened that package. She was in tears. And it's that sort of thing, that differentiator. I mean, her parents got on the phone.
Nice.
Like, I mean, they booked a $7,000 trip. Yeah, I'm throwing in, you know, $40 worth of tumblers. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And listen, and here's that's another great lesson, right? Because the ROI that Ronan and his company got just for doing a little extra effort stuff, because it doesn't take a whole lot, people. And he just said it was a total, maybe what you said, 40, $50.
$40 in tumblers.
Yep. It's the ROI on that. I can't express how big the ROI on that is. So there's a great book, and I mentioned this on a couple of other podcasts, and I did a video on. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality, and in that book, specifically talks about what just Ronan did, and how that the ROI on that is so big because she is now, I mean, she was in tears, right? She's going to tell all her friends. So
Everyone.
anyone that brings up anything with outdoor activities or fishing or hunting, Ronan's going to be at the front of mind. I can't. I mean, that's huge, people. So good for you, Ronan, for going above and beyond, and that's awesome.
The,
Here's along the same line. Here's
tag on that really
yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
So the other part of that, so every communication, the guide used to, before we took over their entire calendar, it used to be a name, the hunt type, and the date. He wouldn't even have the bookkeeping, any balance due, fiance name, the occasion, no details, nothing. Now, every communication, everything, they literally, it's brainless for them. They know every party member's name. It's all detailed there. If there's a balance due, what they need to collect, everything, all of it. But they showed up and they were raving about how unbelievable this experience has already been. He hasn't even done anything, and they're already raving. They haven't even started the hunt yet, and they already are talking about how it's the greatest hunt they've ever been on, and they haven't even started.
Nice, nice. I love that. I love that. Let me ask you, because now, I mean, that was a great example. But let me ask you something a lot of people don't think about, and I'm not too familiar with your specific industry, but
Mhm.
what would you say is the most common mistake that others in your industry are currently making today as it relates to guest experiences?
Simply providing just a listing service. They don't do anything I provide, where it's literally just they go online, book a trip, and it's all automated. There's no interaction. There's no this communication doesn't exist. If they have a question, someone might get back to them in a week or so. Everything I sort of described, it doesn't happen in the industry. Everything else, for example, bass fishing, there are lots of huge multi-million dollar listing services where you're the guides are one of 1,000 other guides listed. Where's the differentiator? Well, whoever gives that listing service more of their commission gets
Yeah.
listed higher. Like there's no incentive. The listing service does nothing other than they advertise all over and they make a ton of money because they list lots and lots of names. And I can imagine that. How do you differentiate your listings in your industry? Well, who communicates? Who provides the best customer service, client service? Who communicates? Who does? How are you differentiating? How are you more than just a listing on a page? And that's in our industry. There really isn't anyone doing what I do.
Dive into that because I like that. I like what you just said, because in our industry as well, currently today, the short-term rental market is really saturated, especially in Orlando. I have a lot of consulting customers that call me all the time to help them optimize and help them market their properties because in the past, and I would say not that long ago, from I'd say 2021 and earlier, you could put anything on just one platform, which at the time was Airbnb. You
Mm-hmm.
can just put it on Airbnb and be successful. Today, the market's oversaturated. So
Right.
today, you have to stand out and you have to go above and beyond if you want to be successful. So you mentioned that your industry is the same. You have a lot of guides. So what specifically? And I think I know the answer, but I just want to be clear and so that my viewers are clear. What is the one specific thing that separates you and makes you stand out over the other guides?
A lot of it is it's going to be that service, and it truly is the service because we're not the cheapest. Far from it. We're not the most expensive, but we are far from the cheapest. So you have a lot of people who, if they're looking for the cheapest, they turn away from us. They won't even look at us. We are eliminated by the people who are just looking for the cheapest opportunity to go duck hunting or get an Osceola turkey. They won't look at us a second time ever.
Okay.
But duck hunting, as an example, there are essentially three species that are very, very, very difficult to get, and sort of the same thing as your Grand Slam on your turkeys. Same thing. You're getting all the migratory bird species. There are three that you can get in Florida, and people try to check off their full list of ducks. And we have a reputation, particularly our number one guide. We get our clients their ducks, and we're not the most expensive, but our guide in particular, is a full-time guide. He doesn't like clean pools year round, and then during duck season, he will go do some duck hunting during duck season. No, he's a full-time year-round hunting guide. And so he is scouting for all the wetlands, finding out where they are, because they're not always year round coming to the same wetlands, because if they're getting blasted in one spot this year, they're not coming back the next year. So you got to find out where they're going to come the next year. And it's that level of work and commitment to it. And we have earned that reputation. So it's the level of service they get before they arrive, and that's me. And it's the level of service they get afterwards when they actually get here, and the level of service they get during their hunt. And so it's a two-pronged attack in that regard.
Yeah,
And
that.
it's
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, that's critical, right? Like I said, and we already kind of touched on it. Um, the service doesn't start when the guest gets there. You know, it starts prior and then during. What happens during? Um, and and the fact, and I'll touch on the fact that one thing you just touched on, that you're not the cheapest, right? You're not the most expensive, but you're not the cheapest. One of the things that we've learned, that money is usually never an issue or an obstacle. It does become an obstacle when you're not providing the value for that money,
Correct.
right? So clearly you guys are providing the value for the money that you're asking for, right? That's why you guys are doing well in that department. But I have a question, because I'm not too familiar with your industry, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure a lot of people are listening now are asking the same. You know, can you go over in general terms, what are the seasons? Like, you know, is it
Mm-hmm.
year round? And, you know, what are the seasons, and what can someone that's looking to book a trip, what are the options?
Yep. All of the seasons. So we obviously only do what's state legally allowed.
Right.
So now the one weird sort of asterisk to that is alligator. There is a public. You probably know a little bit about this, Fernando. In Florida, there is a public lottery for alligator tags, and that public land open season is roughly mid-August through, I think, the first week of November. But there is private land alligator ranches, essentially, where we still have access to those, so we can hunt alligator year round, but only on public land August through about the first week of November. And that season, and we have it very clearly defined, the prices are different, but that season is kind of your real alligator hunting. Um, that's where you're going out in public land. That's your real hunt. Your private land, your prices are different, and that's pretty much, you tell me the size alligator you want, and we're going to get you and guarantee you that size alligator, because we're going to go to the section of that land and property where that property owner and that alligator farmer has them. You're not going into a cage where it's in, but it's in an area where we know that alligator is. But
Yes,
otherwise,
I think I got confused there. But the private stuff can be done year round, but the
correct.
public stuff is only okay. Okay.
Yep, correct. So then duck is essentially fall through January. So the best time is November through January for duck. Then turkey is March, um, um, essentially March and April. Then there is a deer is has multiple seasons. So then there's archery, then muzzle loading, then open season rifle. So they open for archery. Then oh, hello, buddy.
Oh wow! I love that. A great guest experience appearance there.
Yeah, that's my puppy, by the way. Um,
Nice.
but so that starts towards that's after turkey season and goes through that that goes we're kind of in the middle of of deer season right now. But deer, um, and then that's also there's doe and then buck. I that one I don't know off the top of my head, but um,
And
Florida
fishing you can do year round, right?
freshwater fishing is year round. Saltwater, that's also a little bit weird. There are so many different species seasons. So like red snapper on the Atlantic side is literally like a 1 day season. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if you knew that. So on the
No.
Atlantic side, it opened and closed already, and it's a madhouse. It's a 1 day season, and everyone does that. That's pretty much booked, over and done with. On the West Coast, on the Gulf, it's open for it per angler. You're allowed two per day for like a month, whereas on the Atlantic side, you're allowed one per angler for 1 day.
Okay. Okay.
Like, and it's really weird. But so, and then grouper, there's a bunch of different seasons on each species, and that one, no captain knows that by heart, and those seasons change yearly. But the hunting seasons, that's generally pretty consistent. Um, and if anyone is interested, anyone watching this, anyone interested, I can send you specific dates. A lot of these dates, I have the general dates on a lot of this available on my site.
Awesome. Awesome. We only have a few more minutes left, so I want to. Can you do me a favor and give um, advice to
Hmm.
someone starting out a new business? Let's do two things. Number one, talk
Yep.
about what was your biggest challenge when starting your business.
So I guess my biggest challenge was um, I'll be very transparent. It's getting guides, bringing guides on, and I expend a lot of money. Marketing. I provide printed material for the guides. I produce like things like this. Like each guide gets their own custom postcard. It has their bio. They don't do this. They do little to no marketing for themselves. Our commissions we get, the online listing services, like I was describing earlier, all they do is they're like a online classifieds. They do nothing and get paid to you book through their site, they get paid.
Right.
If I actually earn, I charge the exact same fee, but I actually spend money to get a booking for you. That's one example of how I do it. But so you run out of your postcards, tell me, I send you more. Well, I
Right.
found out, all these guys are like, yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, and they would bash those listing sites and all of that. I hate using them, da 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 da. I kept finding they would get stickers and cover my contact information, and so I'm doing all of this, and these are guys who were quote unquote my friends, and yeah, I support you, I'm going to support you, I'm going to do all of this. So then you're doing all of this and you're working and spending money and going out of your way to do this, and a lot of the reasons why the industry is as bad as it is in that regard is because of these guys as well.
Right.
And that's one other thing. I will never get as big as those online services because I'm very selective as to who I will represent now.
Right.
um, so it's we were at a point where for us to grow, I need to add staff. And for us to add this person, one, I will only add them if they sort of pass our screening process. And then to add X number, we have to hire more staff because we will not compromise our level of service and to our guides and our outward customers, our retail customers. So I guess that was expending all of those resources financially and time wise to then have them just sort of spit in your face and
Right.
take advantage of it. I guess that was our biggest, um,
Challenge.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lesson, people. I know those of you that follow me have heard me say this before, and that is take your time hiring, but fire quickly if they're not a match. You can't. There's in any business, right? Staffing is the biggest challenge.
Hmm.
Staffing will make or break you. So again, always keep that in the back of your head. Take your time when you're going to hire, but don't hold on to that person hoping they're going to turn around. Give them significant. As long as you do the following, as long as you're giving them, like Ronan, giving them the material, the education, the training they need. If you're providing those three things, and when within a reasonable time frame, if they're not catching on or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing or they're not producing, you have to let them go. Next, and any business, it's going to take you time to get established. Nothing happens overnight. So don't think that if you're starting a short-term rental business or any business, that within 6 months you're making $1 million. The world doesn't work that way. I always give the example of Jeff Bezos. He didn't collect the paycheck for 10 years, people. For 10 years, that guy worked for free. You need to be willing to do the same if you want to be successful in business. So thank you for sharing that. Now the last question is, what advice would you give someone that's getting into a business?
Don't don't make decisions out of passion. So I love the outdoors and I love fishing, but it had to make sense from a business perspective before I made a decision about something I was passionate about.
Let me applaud you,
And
buddy. Let me applaud you. Great advice. But continue, because I'm going to touch on this because this is big.
yeah, yeah. So you know, and sort of, I didn't go as long as Jeff Bezos, and I didn't invest that much money, but I've invested a significant amount of my money building this, building the infrastructure, um, all of this. You know, that I knew I'm not making any money for 18 months. I knew that going in. You know, have to know that, not I get to go fishing every day. Well, but don't make a decision. Don't approach something like this. And I know guides, people who, oh, I'm going to go be a fishing guide because I can make this much money. You're not going to be booked. A first time guide, and I know so many guides who they just assume their calendar is going to be booked. You have no book of business. You have no this, you have no that. And I know there's probably similarities in your properties where people just think, I can rent my property for this much money and it's going to mean this much money every year. Well, you have no history. You have no marketing. You have no clientele. You have no book of business. You have nope. Assume, like, you need to assume, can you go with nothing for 6 months? Do you have that reserve built up? I knew I'm making no money. I'm at burn for 18 months. I knew that going in, but it was, I know I'm confident in operations, project management, marketing, this, that, and the other. And I see a huge differentiator in this industry. And then I see a huge gap in this industry. And I know what I can bring. And I already have this person signed, this person signed. I have this done before I ever pulled the trigger. And you have to approach it logically. So that would be the advice.
Awesome. And I'm going to second that. And the way I always like to express it, and this goes this applies to life in general.
Hmm.
I don't think anyone should ever make important decisions based on emotions. Emotions will always fail you. You have to base these type of decisions on logic. Like for example, for us, and I see this all the time when I'm working with investors, they look at a property and oftentimes I tell them, listen, let us find the property. We'll give you the numbers. If you like the numbers, you let's buy it and let's invest in it. And the reason I do that is because I don't want them to look at it. Because oftentimes they'll come in, especially if they come in with the wife, because oftentimes it is the wife, sadly to say, they'll come in and they will either love it or they'll hate it, not based on the numbers, but based on what they're seeing. And they usually see themselves in that property and they're like, oh, I can live here. I can do this. But that's based on your emotions on what you personally like, not based on logic, because oftentimes what you like may not be good. It may not work. Or what works, you may not like it, and at the end, not buy it and then lose out on a great investment. So thank you for sharing with that. Ronan, can you share with the audience how can someone get a hold of you?
Very easy. Its website is invictusoutdoors.com. You can reach out the contact page there. My email directly is Ronan, Ronan, at invictusoutdoors.com. That's me directly, rather than going through just the general email from the site. My direct mobile, not the company messaging, is 954-655-2345.
All right, brother. I'm going to have all that information in the description down below. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. If it was, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, follow me on Instagram. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. And Ronan, once again, I salute you, brother.
Fernando,
Have a
thank you
great day.
so much for having me. I really appreciate it.